I think we can all agree that this is so much fun. Though I do think Duna looks particularly sad while being punched in the face.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer.
Hello, my fellow hunters. How are you enjoying, well, punching monsters in the face until they stop moving? Whoa, no, don't actually answer. I know how much you're enjoying it.
Maximum!
And me too. But I think by far and away the most interesting and compelling thing about this whole Akuma pseudo 15th weapon loveliness is just that. 15th weapon loveliness. Now I'm going to say something that I have thought, that you have likely thought, that I've seen a lot of people think. And it goes a little something like this. You put on your tinfoil hat, you hunker down, and you whisper, what if the Akuma collab is like a test for an actual 15th weapon in like Master Rank Wilds or a future Monster Hunter game? Ooh. And I mean, what if, right? It's a lot of work and effort and detail to put in what is essentially a whole mini moveset and mechanical functioning method of combating monsters for, air quotes, just a collab. And while in my last one I talked about how it's nice to see such detail and love go into collabs, and if that's what we can expect going forward, not that I think we're going to get a half weapon every time, then that's really positive and it doesn't need to go past that. This is just the new standard of collabs, and that's great. But what if it does go past that? And I'll be honest with you, more than anything, this is just a lovely excuse to talk about, are we actually overdue a new weapon in Monster Hunter? Is there actually a solid argument for that happening? Because I think what the Akuma armor has done is kind of awakened that thought in everyone that's used it, because it is immensely fun. And the reason it's immensely fun is, the method of delivery is punching, and a fist-esque weapon has been long requested in Monster Hunter, even though technically one already exists that we'll talk about, and B, suddenly I'm not using one of the 14 weapons I'm so used to, and I'm still hunting monsters. Oh my god, this is so cool! The kind of honeymoon phase of, ooh, that you would get with any new weapon-esque thing like this. So let me start this with a sentence that's probably going to be horrifying to those of you that, like me, have been playing Monster Hunter for a very, 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 very long time. Since the literal first game, in my case. There is now more years between the addition of Charge Blade and Insect Glaive in Monster Hunter 4 than there is years between the very first Monster Hunter game and Monster Hunter 4. Let that sink in for just a moment. It has been like 12 years since we saw an actual new weapon. We got the Insect Glaive and the Charge Blade in the 4th gen, both very, very cool, and then that was about it for a long, long time. Now granted, that long time only includes just now 2 generations. Most of it was literally the rest of the 4th and the 5th, so in terms of generation gap, it would imply that we're going to get a new weapon in the 8th generation, right? Which at the pace we're going is going to be like in 10 years, but if we look at it in time, it is kind of fair to say, aren't we overdue a new weapon? But saying aren't we overdue a new weapon implies that we just are going to get more weapons. It implies that it is natural that Monster Hunter should keep getting weapons. It implies that it makes sense for that to just be a thing. And I think that actually might not exactly be the case. Now, we know that Capcom have talked about weapons and new weapons in various interviews, and have said essentially along the lines that they feel all 14 essentially cover all kind of aspects of play that you would want. They have enough mechanical variance that anyone could get any kind of playstyle to suit their preference and not feel like something's missing. There's something for everyone to really click with and have a great time with. And I kind kind of agree. If we're going to go off the purity that it doesn't literally, air quotes, need a new weapon because there's no inherent major playstyle missing, then yeah, I actually think that is fair enough. I think a 15th weapon would be purely because it's cool, but that's also completely valid because it would be really, really cool. Now, let's actually look at Akuma then. So, it is a very close-range, blunt, punchy style weapon. Now, fist weapons is something people have always talked about, but we can't really look at a weapon like this and go, oh, that's so cool, I wish we had something like that, without talking about Frontier, without talking about the Tonfas. Because they are essentially Akuma style, but in a full actual moveset. They are short, fist-esque expressions. Yes, they're, literally tonfas that you're hitting things with, but in their animations, their range, how they play, you very much could just make the tonfas invisible and it would look like you're fighting with your fists. They are explosive, they are fast, they are aerial, they've got ridiculous combos, they've got 2 different modes they can be in, they can do serious blunt damage, they even can make little red spots appear on monsters that you can then interact with for more damage, exactly kind of like wounds. And I think as soon as you look at them, there is this, I feel like the Tonfas actually isn't a bad example of if you were tasked with making something Akuma-esque feeling into a literal full weapon. So there's always this kind of moment of, look, we don't need to have a new weapon, we just need to bring either the Tonfa or the magnet spike or even the axle axe into the main line, right? It's kind of already there. That's a whole new play style. Oh, look at the sink! Look at the sink! Oh my god, man! Please!
Charged it at the perfect time. Oh, we got the stun!
Yeah, that kind of is the thing, isn't it? But at the same time, they're Frontier weapons. They're ridiculous because Frontier monsters are ridiculous. Not in a bad way, Frontier's awesome. I mean, I kind of loved playing through it, but it's over the top. And the Frontier-esque weapons are built with that kind of power creep arms race with ridiculous endgame monsters in mind, so they would have to be retooled a lot. But now that Frontier is kind of slowly getting properly canonized, Espinas in the main game, Hunter followers, and so on, there are mechanics that are slowly seeping in, and Frontier devs going on to the actual Monster Hunter teams, especially the spin-offs, it's not impossible that it would happen. I do wonder what would happen if the side game of a generation, the Rise or Sunbreak, that can go a little bit off-piste, does put in a new weapon, and then the next mainline, would they ignore it and just let that be a unique thing? That's always something interesting to me, but I digress, it is beside the point here. I think it is ultimately fair to say that Tonfas represent a very good idea of what a full Akuma weapon might actually feel, look like, and play like, and then you ask the question, would Monster Hunter mainline be better with the Tonfas in? And I think, obviously, most people by far would go, yeah, of course it would, they're really cool, and it's a new weapon, and that's really fun. And yes, all of that, of course, is true. But at the same time, you can't ignore that little echo of, does it need to be a new weapon? Is this actually a trial? And I don't think it's a trial at all. I think it's just a fun collab, and they went all in with it, made that Street Fighter playstyle feel alive in Monster Hunter to make people want to try actual Street Fighter, and that's all well and good. But we have seen examples of something that they did innocently or with different reasons actually manifest into new things in Monster Hunter. Like Fatalis, which is a great example. He wasn't planned for Iceborne, but his new model got such an outcry of, oh please, that they went, everyone really wants this. Can we do it? Should we do it? Yeah, let's put Fatalis in as the final title update. And thus it happened. Something I think is absolutely great. And even through little changes, we know the devs really listen to community sentiment. But that only gets you so far. No one's going to be over here like, well, they all want a new weapon, so get to work, guys. These things are big decisions and likely something that would only ever happen with a new entire generation. I don't even think a Master Rank expansion would be enough for it, so we we'd at least be waiting to the 7th gen, but it's entirely possible that this little collab with its Akuma punches has sown some seeds that one day might bloom into a new way of stabby monster death wear skin, and that's kinda fun. I don't think it's likely. I don't think that Monster Hunter feels like it's missing a 15th weapon, but I also, of course, as someone that just fucking loves Monster Hunter, think it would be really cool to get something like this, or indeed any other kind of new weapon in the game, because hey, it's a new weapon. But obviously a new weapon, outside of making it work as an actual moveset that feels like it has a place, you then have to design, well, a bajillion different weapon models for that weapon on top of the other 14 for every monster in the game that's in it, and it really is an amplification of the amount of work that needs to go into a new Monster Hunter game, and they are already becoming, well, monstrous tasks, especially looking at Wilds, if that kind of advancement keeps progressing. So again, it really is quite the big decision, and it's nowhere near as simple as just, it would be cool, why not, just do it. It's a big development choice, and I think that's something that is worth remembering and respecting. In any case, I would love to know your answer to the question of, do you think Monster Hunter needs a 15 weapon? And then couple that with your answer to, do you want it to have one? Because I think, you know, collating those two things is actually rather difficult. And I think you could do all of this in a much less extreme way. I think you could get that new weapon freshness via alternate means. Obviously, we're seeing that with Akuma and his punches in the collab, but I think a lot of it can also come from the existing weapons. I think there's two good big examples. Number one, Frontier again with its different lengths of weapon. If suddenly you're having to balance not just the stats on the weapon, not just the skills in Wild's case, but the actual hitbox size, shape, and length, that adds a fun little vector. You can get some ridiculously long lances and greatswords in Frontier, and while it's not a huge factor, it does add a physical layer of choice to choosing your weapon. The other is adding variance within the weapons. Back in the day, dual blades was a thing, but you couldn't just make dual blades, you kind of upgraded them as a side split of a different weapon types tree. So maybe not something that extreme, but something simple like, hey, any hammers that are clearly sharp and they look like axes, like the Valhazak axe does cutting damage, make it so that dual blades, whose weapon models are clearly like hammers, can they do blunt damage, and have little change-ups like that that are still using the moveset of a weapon, but give distinctly different flavors and feels depending on actual properties they harbor. That, I think, is really, really fun, and something that you could totally consider, totally actually do, to give a kind of freshness to a generation. But then you also have stuff like every extra system that we get in Monster Hunter, like the focus mode, like your wire bug and all the attacks associated, all the wacky stuff in Generations Ultimate. That adds many more layers to all of the weapons. You could say something like Prowler was actually a 15th weapon, and Prowler and Akuma actually feel very similar. In fact, I think Akuma is more complex of an air quotes weapon than Prowler, and Prowler totally counts. Something like alchemy style. There's lots of ways to do these kind of changes up some freshness without doing an official proper new 15th weapon, and that's the stuff I think is both realistic and things that I would really like to see get explored. So ultimately, them's my thoughts to the general statement, what if Akuma is a secret test for an actual 15th weapon? And I would love to know your thoughts too. I think there really is a lot to get into here, and honestly it could fill an entire other video. But for now, like if you've enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more, consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.